This looks a little bit more like watercolor right now, but we'll soon start adding less water and maybe some painting medium to thicken the paint up just a little bit. So I don't start with like black. I start with a darker mid-tone by my even darker values. I'm not worrying about if this like looks exactly like it does in the picture after this one coat. What I like to do is work all of my pieces in a painting up at the same time. You get more visual unity that way than if I just like focused for 3 days to get this perfect and then moved on to the next piece that was still white on my canvas. You want to judge shapes off of each other. You want to judge color relationships off of each other, and to do that, you really need to make sure that you're working up your images, or all components of your images, together. It's going to take me several coats of paint to get this looking exactly like the photo. I'm not holding myself to those expectations right now. Keeping an open mind about this, especially if, and it's not my first time doing this, but if this were my first time doing it, I would hope to think that I could cut myself some slack and just try this. If it's not your thing, I won't make you do it again, but I do want everybody to try oil painting once. Now I'm going to mix up some of those highlights. Begin to add those. With water-soluble oils, like I mentioned and like you've seen me do, I can rinse my brush off with water. It is a little bit harder to clean your brushes, so you want to make sure that you spend a little bit more time at the sink rinsing them out thoroughly. You can also take one sheet of paper towel and then wipe your brush off to clean it as well after you put it in water. I'm going to find some of those highlights. Dipping my brush in water. Like I said, just pretend like it's a really good movie. So now, my piece is lacking the depth that it would have if I built layers up over this. I blended layers together. But it's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional than it did previously. Alright, that's looking okay. Then I would move over here. I always kind of just choose like a centrally located object. And then I'll kind of move around it. I can move this way or this way, but I kind of want to paint this picture. If I were really following what I was saying, I would have done this first, because it is indeed behind these other pieces. And with this one, there is a lot of, since it's tin, and it's kind of there's cool tin in here, like mixed with blue and then warm highlights. So I'm going to utilize both red and blue to paint this. Adding good ultramarine, that's my favorite. Be mindful of like what paints you choose, and then keep using them. You don't want to accidentally, like if I had chosen cobalt here, it would have kind of thrown off the color of my painting or the overall kind of tonality. So I'm going to mix together kind of like a mid-tone here, some black. This black is kind of a warm black, so we'll see how it mixes with that cool gray. Trying to get relative tones down here. So you don't have to be exact, you just want to get something ballpark range down. And I think I'm actually going to maybe start with some of my dark values here. And then once I add this dark tone of the picture in, my base kind of pops forward in space. Once I really work this up, my guess is that I'll see some inaccuracies or things that I need to fix in here. You always want to be kind of judging objects in a painting off of one another, noticing relationships in color, size, scale, and then responding appropriately. Your painting will be built up over several layers, and I'll try to kind of work on one of these paintings with you all so you can come over and kind of see the process, because like I said, I'm not going to spend 8 hours demoing and make you watch, but I will be there as a resource kind of working on one if you need. Here this is kind of warm, it's almost kind of like a flesh tone, so what I'll do is take my cadmium yellow, mix it with my cadmium red, take a little bit more yellow, and then mix it with white. Adding water. Blending that in there. A mistake or something to kind of overcome if you're a beginning painter is thinking of everything as like hard shapes. And you'll notice, especially in things like portraiture, but also in photographs of still lifes or just about anything, not everything is divided by a hard line. A lot of believable value is made up of smaller shapes of light value bumping up against shapes of mid-tone or dark shapes. So not everything has to have a hard line in it. Oil paint is just, it's so viscous, it's really easy to spread. It is way easier once you get the hang of it to blend than acrylic paint is. So I hope that hopefully you enjoy that feature of it. Almost done for those of you who feel like this is a torturous experience. Oops. And this document camera isn't picking up as well as what I'm seeing because there's a little bit of a glare. So if you want to come once I'm done with this demo and look at what's over here and how it relates to the picture, you're more than welcome to do it. There's still some light values here, some here, and then there's some really bright ones up here. And I'm going to kind of just leave that alone for now. I am going to come back into this one briefly, and I'll talk about these oils here. The darker one, which they look exactly the same, but I have them labeled in cups over here. The darker one is painting medium, and you can use this with oil, or with water rather, or you can use it as a substitute. Painting medium thickens your paint, and it increases viscosity, or like the ability to spread something around the movement of your paint, and it also slows drying time. This is linseed oil, the stuff that looks remarkably similar, so don't mix up the caps. Linseed oil kind of thins paint a little bit more, just like water does. It increases viscosity and it reduces drying time. So really, painting medium kind of thickens the paint a little bit. Linseed oil thins the paint. So what I like to do is use linseed oil kind of during the beginning and middle of my process, and then when I want those really like beautiful juicy highlights on my piece and I'm not using as much water or thinning material, I use painting medium because it'll actually kind of thicken the paint a little bit more. You can dip your brush in here. Make sure, since these are communal, that you are cleaning off your brush well before you dip it in to the linseed oil to mix, or the painting medium to mix your paint in with, because we want to keep them nice, and they are really expensive per bottle, so I kind of have what I have and then I can't buy any more. So I've just dipped it in the linseed oil, and I'm going to check. Sorry, there's a super glare on my screen. And with layers comes opportunities to blend, opportunities to build visual depth, opportunities to correct mistakes proportionally or color-wise. I'm going to bring a little bit of warmth in there with some yellow. If you don't need to use painting medium if you don't want to, you're free to just use water. If oil painting seems kind of complex and you just want to, it's enough to just try it out and just not have to worry about dipping your paintbrush in different things and remembering what they do, that's fine. For those of you who have tried this before, or you try this, you get the knack for it and you want to kind of have more manipulation or control over what your paint does, you're welcome to use it. It took me kind of years to figure out the difference, so if you have questions about anything regarding this practice, like I said, it is my favorite. I don't have favorite students, but I have favorite ways to create art, and this is definitely it. So linseed oil is kind of giving my paint the viscosity that it needs. I'm mixing it with less water. I'm kind of using oil a little bit more now. I wouldn't have done that in my first piece, or my first layer, because that's just to get that color down. I want to practice fat over lean. But at this point, does anybody have any questions about this at all? No questions? Okay. Like I said, I would just work this up all together. So I wouldn't come back into this shape, this object, until I had done the same thing to everything, and that I want to cover all of my white spaces. I just did this so that I could show you the second step in the process, so I don't have to kind of recall you all over. That's a little bit too... All right, that's all I have for you right now. Like I said, you can come and take